Welcome back to the Keeping It Real podcast, everybody. Today, I have a special guest with me. Josh is someone that I met in 2020. It was at an event, an e-commerce event hosted by Luke Belmar. And we just stayed in touch. I think the next day we went and shot some guns together after the event. That was pretty cool. And me and him always just, been in touch. Even been in some crazy experiences together. There's a whole Mexico story that we might even touch on later. If you guys are watching the video, you can see his face right when I said Mexico, what his face looked like to understand what's about to come through. But yeah, man, someone that I've been cool with, someone that I just catch up with. Even when I'm in Miami, make sure to link him. A really good friend of mine, someone that is pushing it in the e-commerce space. So I thought, it would be perfect to have him on, just ask him some questions about his journey, get to understand, what he's gone through, how he's got to where he is now, just some other questions as well about his life. But without further ado, welcome Josh to the podcast. I think a lot of people are looking forward to this, man. How are you doing today?
I'm doing good, man. Thank you for having me. There's not many people that can get me to do podcasts. I've been offered a lot of podcasts and a lot of YouTube videos. The only other person that's been able to make me do something like this is James. So this is like very rare. So thanks for having me. And I think we're going to have some fun.
Hell yeah, man. And that's what I'm excited for. I know you're not too public. I know you don't be doing too many videos. Just stick to, what you're doing in your Discord. So it's cool to have you on, just kind of get to know your journey more. And the first question is exactly that, right? I would love to kind of hear the phase in your life when you realize like shit, like, damn, like I'm not going to go this normal route, and maybe even talk about certain jobs you had, how you discovered e-commerce, what you were doing before, and even like the journey of just starting it and getting to your first initial successes. I just want, I'm not going to interrupt you, just go for it, man. I would love to hear that story.
Right. So I'll try and, put this in as a congruent a timeline as possible. So
For sure.
I was always like growing up a hustler. And I think a lot of people have that same common trait that you've interviewed, because I've listened to a lot of your podcasts, right? A lot of these people have the same common trait of, okay, when you're younger, maybe you find things to sell, stuff like that. When I turned 14, I really wanted to be a YouTuber, right? So I had saved up all this money from like a summer job, and I spent maybe like 2.5 or like 3K on a computer to build, for video editing and things like this. And I quickly realized as soon as I turned on my computer that I had no more money left. And I knew that YouTube would take a long time to pay. So that's kind of when the first search for how to make money online came about, when I was 14. And I came across a guy named Alex Becker, who I'm sure most people on here know. So if you're an OG and you were back in those days, he had a company called SourceWave, which was essentially an SEO business where he taught people how to do SEO. It was like an SEO course, right? So I didn't have the money to take the SEO course. So I just tried to learn as much stuff as I possibly could for free. I tried SEO. I was not successful with it. But the one thing that was great about it is that it gave me a clear vision of how to make $1 million, right? So I think a lot of people, they say, I want to make $1 million, but they don't really know how to do it. So what he was teaching is something called rake and rent sites, which is essentially you create a niche website, let's just say dentists, right? Dentistdirectory.com. And then you rent out the pages to local businesses for, let's just say $1,000 a month. So I figured, okay, if I have 10 pages, each one's paying $1,000 a month, then that's 10K a month per site. Then I just need to do the math to get it to a 6-figure a month income. And then boom, that's $1 million, right? Now, obviously it's way easier said than done. But the nice thing is it gave me the vision of, okay, this is how I do it, right? So at the time I was still in school. Obviously I was only 14, 15. I was doing really well in my athletics, and I got a scholarship to Notre Dame for swimming, which I verbally agreed to. And it was around the age of 17 that I realized I did not want to do that. Well, I already knew previously I didn't want to do it, but I had a lot of pressure from family to go to school, go to college, get the degree. We all know this. We've all been there, right? So when I was 17, I told my parents, hey, I am going to not accept the scholarship anymore. And that did not go over very well. And, that led to a lot of fights with my parents and things like this. And at the time, I was kind of a bad kid. I was getting into fights, doing some activities that we probably shouldn't talk about on a podcast, things like that. And I ended up getting kicked out of my mom's house when I was 18. And I went to go live with my friend Robert and Jordan and their family. I'm very gracious to them. They took me in at a time when I really needed it. So I always appreciate them for that. And
How
I heard
long
about,
was this for, bro? How long were you kicked out for?
oh, I mean, I never went back. So
Oh shit.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
damn. Sorry,
Yeah,
continue.
yeah, no, it's no animosity towards them or anything like that. But yeah, so I got kicked out. I went to go live with them. And at the time, I had just heard about Amazon FBA, which is not something that I do, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, so I heard about Amazon FBA. I started to explore that route. And then someone introduced me to Shopify. And this is in summer of 2017. So this would have been like June or May of 2017, somewhere around there. And it was so funny. Literally the only reason why I decided to do Shopify over Amazon, it was the dumbest reason. It was because when you do Shopify, you basically more or less own your own website. And I thought it'd be cool to show girls that I own my own website. That was literally the only,
Yo, no, this
that
is
was it.
hilarious.
That was the
This
only
is
reason why I decided to do
hilarious.
Shopify over
I love this
Amazon.
guy.
Now,
This guy is hilarious,
luckily,
bro.
luckily looking back on it, it worked out quite well, right? So I'm very glad I ended up picking Shopify over Amazon because it's a much more scalable business model. But yeah, that was literally the only reason. So I kind of hammered away at it. And it was in early 2018 is kind of when I saw like my first big success. And then I partnered with my business partner, Omar, in 2019, and we've been running together ever since. So I know that's a very, brief overview of it, but as a whole, that's kind of the timeline.
That's awesome, man. Talk about like, your the phase that you were in when you were kind of getting your initial success, not just with the money you're making, but what was happening around you, like the people around you, even your mindset changing. Like what were the changes you were seeing in your life once you started getting your first initial success?
At the time, I see a lot of people where they say, okay, when I get my first success, I feel like everyone's out to get me this, and this. I've always been very low key, not as much anymore, but definitely in the beginning I was. So I didn't really have anyone that was there to try and leech off of me and things like this. And I've been very blessed that all of my friends that I have today, I've had them since childhood, right? And I made it very clear to them one thing, and that's never ask me for money. If I want to give you money, I'll give you money, but never ask me for it. And nobody has ever asked me for money. Well, one time I had someone ask me, that's it. Right. So all my friends have been very supportive, and they've always known that, I was going to be that guy, so on and so forth. And I would say, honestly, the biggest change was trying to convince my family that this is it, right? Because everyone in my family is very traditional. I know you come from a traditional background as well, right? So it's very hard to break mindset. It's the hardest thing to break, right? So
Yeah,
I
facts.
could show my family Shopify dashboards. I could refresh it all they want. It didn't even matter to them. This is just numbers on a screen. It might as well just be a toy app, right? It makes no sense to them. So it was the hardest thing trying to convince my family. And, one thing that really bugged me, dude, even to this day, is I had an uncle, right? I went to go visit him. And this was in like, I think the end of 2018, somewhere around there. And he asked me, he's like, so how much money are you making? And I told him how much it was at the time. And he's like, okay, that's great. When are you going back to school? I was just like, oh my God, dude.
What?
Don't even get me started, bro. It irritated me so badly. But, that part took a bit of a hurdle. But besides that, the biggest thing was just believing in myself, because I think when you first start and you don't see, I tell this to Discord members all the time and just to people in general, it's like, dude, when you're trying to do something day after day after day and it's not working, you're just like, fuck, is this ever going to work? Or like, am I not good enough for this? There's so many thoughts that go through your head. And once you start to see some sort of success, I think everything changes. Like there's something internally that it just switches on and you're like, oh, I can actually do this. So I would say that is by far the biggest thing.
That's so huge, man. And I've felt that before, exactly what you said. When in the beginning when I started, some of my mentors, the biggest thing they did to me was give me hope. Like that was as much as important as the skill, is knowing that, okay, these guys have done it, so I know it's possible. It's not like, like, and I talk to these guys, and even like you said, that's so cool that you say that to your Discord members. Same with my, with the community that I have, is I tell them like, look at people here as hope, because that is almost honestly as important, because I've seen so many people just stop, and if they had stayed consistent, they would have probably been somewhere, but just stop at a point where if they had continued, they might have actually gone somewhere. So that's really cool to hear. And you are right. You know, you definitely see a whole switch in how you think. And that was segues to the next question is some of the mindset principles that you kind of live through, like not just mindset, but just life principles that you live by that has helped you become who you are, you know? And in this answer as well, I think it would be cool for you to touch on the topic that, you know, we just talked about, which is you staying sober from weed for the last, what, 10 months? Is it? Has it been 10 months?
10 months.
Yeah, perfect. So yeah, I would just like to hear, you know, some of the life principles and even touching on the sobriety that you've been experiencing from weed and how that's helped you as well.
Yeah, man, so many life principles. I'll start first with the weed one because that's, you know, fresh on the mind. So
Hell yeah.
I came from California. It's where I was born, and everyone knows California is kind of like the stoner state, right? Everyone in California smokes weed. So I started smoking when I was 14, and it's more or less been a daily thing ever since then. So I'm 23 years old now. So, you know, almost 9 years, right? So it was really hard, but I realized a couple of things, right? I realized that although I love weed, it's not the most harmful thing you could do, but it does hinder your drive, right? Your drive for more. It kind of desensitizes you. You know, if you're kind of going through a bad day, you can always have a blunt and it'll make you feel better, right? But you need to live through that pain, right? It's just something you have to go through. And the way I actually stopped, it wasn't really by choice. So essentially what happened was last year, I had this person, everyone kind of has family who's like not technically their family, right? But it's like, oh, that's my aunt, right? So she had kind of passed on that day. And then I also had like some girl troubles on that day, and it was just really fucking me up. And I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go like 1 week just to kind of clear my mind. And 1 week turned into two, turned into three, 1 month, 2 month. And I actually ended up going 3 months completely sober, no weed or alcohol. But yeah, I don't know. I just kept going, and now I'm just gonna go a year. And you know, if it want to keep going longer, great. If not, you know, at least I did it for a whole year, no weed.
Hell yeah.
But it's at the point now where, to be honest, you know, my neighbor, shout out Ro, he smokes all the time out on the balcony. And before I would be like, hell yeah, I want to go out there and either smoke with them or just smell it. Now it's like, I don't even want to smell weed. Like, I really don't even want to smell it. I don't care if my friends do, I'll still kick it with them. But yeah, just don't do it. But yeah, that was a crazy life principle to learn, you know, to kind of give up things, right? You have to give up certain things in order to achieve other things, right? And you know, something as dear to my heart as, you know, weed, I had to give it up in order to level up. And I leveled up like crazy. You know, I get better sleep, which is, it's still something that I'm trying to fix because I live in Miami. So, you know, sleep is a little bit interesting here. But you know, that my focus is better appetite, things like that. But yeah, dude, the weed, that's great. Are you still smoking, or are you kind of phased out of it? What's your thoughts on it right now?
It's not as regular as it used to be.
Yeah.
And I always try to add like contingencies, like, you know, oh, I can only do it once I finish this. But yeah,
Yeah.
no, not as regular. Especially whenever I take a break, I do notice a huge. I did it in Cape Town. I did it in Italy, in Nepal as well. I was pretty free from it, just with just some occasional use. But yeah, just I need to see transition. It sounds crazy, and this is not advice. Before I say this is not advice, disclaimer. This is my experience. I started microdosing again, and that really helped me with this. Like, it really helped me just like give a lot of things up, which was crazy to me because yeah, I just started, like, you know, changing the way I thought and even how strong these thoughts became, and it helped me, I guess, combat my desires through thinking, like, you know, just adopting new principles. So, again, not advice. We do your own research, make your own decisions, but I'm on the same wave, man. Eventually just want to fully quit, you know, because I do think that it is one of those things that's hindering me. And I'll be the first one to say it and be vulnerable here. Is like, you know, I was addicted to it and still am to a point. But yeah, it's the process that I'm looking forward to. But it's good, you know, like seeing you do this shit like this, like inspires me and makes me go, all right, yo, I can do it. You know, I can do it as well. Because I remember, like, you know, we used to turn up and all that. So just seeing this change, like, it's just inspiring. Like, okay, yo, I can do this as well. Again, you know, we talked about hope, bro. It's not just like making money. It's like things like this, you know. There's a lot of it. A lot of my friends, even seeing one of my friends get in shape, made me realize, like, shit, like, I can go hard as well in the gym. You know, I can go harder. So it's always good to have friends like you around. that are, I guess, paving the path forward for us. But I know you touched on Miami, bro. I want to speak on this. Because I know when we first met, I think you still lived in LA, and then you
Yep.
transitioned over to Miami. So just kind of want to talk about the change, of living in Miami versus LA. Has it been a year? Or it's about to be a year?
Just over a year now.
Just over a year. Okay, so it's just been over just a year that you've been living in Miami. Talk about the experiences, the ups and downs, what you like about it, and if you're going to be staying there in the future as well.
Yeah. So a lot of people in ecom seem to love LA, which is it's understandable. I think, yeah, I think since I grew up there, it's not as special to me, right? Obviously, some people who grew up in Miami might say the same about Miami, right? So it makes sense. It's like the novelty factor isn't quite there for me in LA. But I love California. I really do. There are a couple of things, politically that I might not agree with California, but as a whole, I do love the state. But there is one thing in California that really I just can't live there, and it makes me too comfortable, right? My whole family is there. Everything, I'm so used to it, the day of life, the beach city vibes. It's just very comfortable, and it's not good for me to grow. I don't grow when I'm in California. I don't, whenever I go there, I only want to visit my friends. I only want to stay with my family. I don't want to work. I don't want to improve, right? Moving to Miami, it was probably the best decision I ever made in my life. And to answer it, yes, I do plan on living here for a very long time. This is definitely the place for me. Now, there is pros and cons to everywhere. So, Miami is great, especially here in Brickell, because for those of you guys who don't know, have never visited Miami, Brickell is kind of, I call it a fantasy bubble, right? Because Brickell is like this really nice area where there's Lambos, Ferraris, Rolls Royces, beautiful women everywhere, good food. And then you just go a couple blocks out and then you're like, this is like a regular city, right? So I do love it here. The pros of Miami is the environment is really good, right? So there's lots of people running up a bag now, whether they're running up a bag legitimately or not. There's some people in Miami. Yeah,
That's funny.
there's some people in Miami where you're like, what exactly are you doing? But people in Miami are running up a bag. The weather is good, food is good, culture is good. The culture is the big one because I love Hispanics and things like that. So the culture here is amazing.
I know you
Lots,
do.
yeah. Oh yeah, we could talk about that. But yeah, the cons, I would say the biggest con is it's very hyper materialistic, which almost ties into a pro, but it's a con because I definitely came from a very simple way of life. So I am glad that I grew up the way I grew up, but now it's just, I'm not jaded to reality. A lot of people here are jaded to reality, right? This is not reality. This is
I
Miami.
noticed
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. You know very well. You've been here many times, right? So
Yeah.
this is not real life, but it is Miami real life. So that's a con. Another con is it is expensive, but that's kind of comes with the lifestyle, right? So I do enjoy going to the club. I do enjoy living in a very nice condo, right? Things like this. So that's a personal choice though. Like that's not a con as a whole. That's very much a personal choice. But overall, for me, the pros outweigh the cons very much. The next step is to try and get my friends and family to move out here. I have a lot of friends who are already moving out here. My family, on my mom's side, they are probably not going to move out here, but I don't really want to touch on that one. But my dad and my grandparents, I'm trying everything I possibly can to move them out
Hell
here.
yeah, man.
Yeah,
I love
financially,
the sound
I'll
of that,
cover
bro.
it.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, financially, I'll cover it, but my grandparents are just a little old, so it's a bit of a process to kind of move them across the country. But step by step, we're gonna get them out here.
I love that, man. That's a very dope goal to have, and hell yeah, man. I can see you easily doing it. And yeah, I can see why you like Miami, man. You can speak the language. It's a dope city.
Yeah,
My question to you is because environment is such a huge factor when it comes to just your reality, right? So how do you make sure you don't get sucked into? Because I have seen it where some of my friends, not just Miami, but maybe LA or certain areas, they move out and now they almost like prioritize the lifestyle more and they're sucked in. They're lost in the sauce, is what I say. How do you make
yeah.
sure you don't get in that?
Well, I would be 100% lying if I said that I'm a poster
Ah,
child of. So listen, here's the thing, right? Okay, so I think life goes in phases, right? So there are certain phases where you'll be more locked in than others. Like Q4, I'm locked in, right? Because that's Q4, right? Listen, when I first moved to Miami, I think for the first like 50 to 60 days, I did not get any work done, like none whatsoever. I was going out every single day, having fun. Maybe check ads in the morning and at night, and that'd be about it. Uh, One thing is this. So Omar and I have done a really good job of systemizing our business. So we don't really have to do all that much, right? So the only thing we have to do is our own media buying. So that's about it, right? Now I do the Discord now, which takes up a little bit more time, but how to get not sucked in, it's very hard, especially here in Miami, especially if you live in the heart of it all. It does come down to your goals and what you're doing at the time, right? So if everything wasn't systemized, I'd have a lot more work to do and I'd kind of have to do it. So it's a blessing and a curse that it is systemized, but it comes down to, what your goals are, right? So are your goals, to make $1 billion? If so, you're probably going to have to be super locked in 24/7. Are your goals to go out and meet a bunch of fun people and have a good time? Okay, you don't have to work as much, right? But yeah, my goals change all the time. I have long-term goals and I have short-term goals. My short-term goals change all the time. So Q4 might be, okay, I want to make this bag. And then once Q1 comes around, it's like, okay, now it's time to party. It's my birthday time, so on and so forth. So it really does depend. But as a whole, the best way, honestly, to be locked in would be to live a little bit outside of the city. That would be my best advice for sure.
You're definitely living your advice there.
Yeah.
I'll play with you. No, I respect, because I respect how, you're still focused being in that type of environment, bro. Because I know how wild it can get, but also there's like, I see it in like both ways, because you can meet people, and not just like, I think there's other ROI rather than just like networking and money stuff only. Just like, even like, bro, when I'm around certain people, I am motivated to just go so hard, and like my standards just go up. And that's a whole like another thing that you have to go to, that I think most people don't talk about as well, right? Where you raise your own standards. You're like, oh shit, like there's another level to this that I can get to, and believing in it. So I see that. I understand exactly why you live in Miami. As you were talking about that, I was thinking that as well. I'm like, damn, like I haven't done that in a while. So I'm just even thinking I'm gonna later plan today, probably just seeing where out of Toronto I can go, where I can just kind of, it will force me to grow. But a quick thing I want to touch on, that we quickly touched on this, and I didn't even know before this podcast, but you mentioned something that you went through earlier this year that, almost, I mean, it was a life-changing thing, because it affected your life heavily, it affected your health. So would love for you to kind of share that story. I don't know much on it, so it'll be my first time hearing it as well. And I'm not too sure if you shared it too much in public. To just kind of, it'll be awesome to just kind of, hear a little bit more about this and the lessons you learned from it going through this.
Yeah. So earlier this year, I had a stroke and kidney failure at the same time, which was like kind of intense, to be honest. So essentially what happened was I was at MMA, shout out Goat Shed in Wynwood, best MMA gym there is. So long story short, we were just doing really hard sparring rounds, and I pushed myself to the point of exhaustion, probably like 6 or 7 times. And I almost passed out. Now, like, oh, I was going to pass out. Now, like, oh, I almost passed out like 6 or 7 times. And I told the coach, I was like, hey, I have to go. And so I was just really sweating hard and breathing hard. I got in my car and I started driving home, and Goat Shed is maybe about 15 minutes from my place. So I got in my car and I started driving, and then my arms started to like go numb. And I was like, oh, that's kind of weird. And keep in mind, this whole time I'm like breathing extremely heavy, still sweating hard. And then about a couple minutes later, my legs started to go numb. And I was like, okay, this is really weird. And then a couple minutes after that, my face started to get like pins and needles. And this whole time, my arms and legs are progressively getting more and more numb. And then like 1 or 2 more minutes went by, and like my vision was like warped, like tunnel vision. And I was like, okay, I'm going to pass out, because I've done jujitsu. I know what it's like to feel like you're going to get passed out. So I was like looking everywhere for a place to like pull over. And I finally found this place. I just like pulled over, and then I put my car in park, and it was like perfect timing, dude. Like, it's kind of hard to explain what happened, because when you're in this like state, you're like half conscious, half not. So a lot of stuff is a little bit blurry, but essentially like my whole body just locked up, like my tongue, it was like this, like sticking out. And I was like crying and shit because I thought I was gonna die. And like I was just like this. And like I remember like vividly like kind of like shaking and stuff like this. And yeah, there is a lot of stuff that I kind of remember, kind of don't. Like I say, it was the weirdest experience, but like I had this thought, which I'll tell you about in a second. I told the doctor, like I really had this number in my head that I had like 2 minutes left to live. That's like, I swear to God, that's what I thought. And I told the doctor this. And he was like, yeah, probably not too far off. I was like, dude, don't tell me this. Don't say that. But yeah. So that's what the doctor told me. But so here's what happened. So anyone who knows me personally knows I'm a bit of a degenerate, right? Like I'm a wild person. I like to have fun and push life to the limits, like you saw in Mexico, right? So here's the thing, guys. I am not, what I'm about to tell you, I do not advocate for anyone to do this whatsoever, okay? So after this passed, right? So after I kind of regained my consciousness, right? So one thing first is that I thought I was going to lose the ability to use my hands. And here's why. So after I regained consciousness and I was able to kind of move my limbs again, my hands were stuck like this. And for those of you guys who are just listening, imagine someone where it's like they're throwing up like gang signs or they're like doing sign language and their fingers are in weird positions. My fingers were stuck like this, right? So if anyone is looking at your hands, you can just move your fingers, right? You don't have to think about it. My hands were stuck and I was looking at them for like 15 minutes straight and I could not move my fingers. Like they were just completely stuck like this. And I was freaking out because I was like, did I just lose the ability to use my hands, dude? Like I was freaking out. But here's what happened. So I called, eventually these started working, right? So here's the thing, guys. So I had actually had a girl coming over before this happened, right? So I told her, I was like, hey, I'm gonna go to MMA. You know, whenever you want to head over. And she lives in West Palm Beach, which if any of you guys know, it's about an hour and a half away. And so I got out and then I had a little stroke thing and I called her and I said, hey, I know this sounds absolutely ridiculous, but I think I just had a stroke. Can you like just like pull over and wait for a bit? I'm gonna go and see the EMT and whatnot. And she was like, because you know how guys will, they'll like make it crazy excuses to get out of dates and stuff like that. Yeah. So I told her, I was like, listen, I know this sounds so ridiculous, but I really do think I just had a stroke. Just like wait for a little bit. She was already probably 30, 45 minutes into her drive.
Right.
So she was like, okay. She was like trying to make sure I was all good. So I called the paramedics and they were like, okay, they're going through the list and this. And they're like, do you need us to come and get you? I was like, no, I mean, you guys can hear my speech is coherent. I feel like I'm good. And they're like, okay, you need to go to the hospital immediately. So at this point, I was already on such a mental high. I was like, holy fuck, I almost just died. I'm invincible, right? This is how I felt. I felt invincible. So I drove home here, parked my car, and literally right across the street is a, what do you call it? Like an urgent care? Yeah. Like the place before you go to the hospital. I went into the urgent care and I told them what happened. They're like, okay, you need to go to the hospital right now. And I was like, okay, I'll take an Uber there. They're like, no, we're going to call an ambulance. And I was like, no, I'll go. And they're just like, we're going back and forth. And we're going back and forth. And I was like, okay, are you going to hold me against my will? And they were like, no. I was like, okay. So then I left and I went back upstairs, took a shower, called the girl, tell her to still come over. She came over. We had a good night until like 4 a.m. And then it was the next morning is when I went to the hospital. And
this is not medical advice.
Yeah, no, guys, I know this sounds like a funny story, advice. But I'm telling you, if anyone, I've told the story to a couple of people. If this ever happens to any of you guys, please don't do this. This is so dumb, right? My view is this. I was like, listen, I could have some sort of relapse and die. If I die without having a good night, I'd be pretty pissed. So wow. Yeah. So we went out drinking, had fun. And then there was the next morning.
Yo.
Oh yeah. No, listen to this. Because I didn't know I had the kidney thing. I thought it was just here.
Oh my God.
So we went out drinking, came back, all that stuff. And then it was the next morning that I went to the hospital and I told the doctor what happened. He looked at me, he was like, you're a fucking idiot. And I was just like,
Oh my God. I
yeah.
can see that. I mean, I understand the doctor's perspective, man. Would you believe me if I said I understand the doctor's perspective?
Trust me, I understood it too. And I was just like, hey doc, I'm gonna keep it real with you, bro. If I didn't do that, I would have been mad.
Oh
So what happened
my
was
God.
they did a brain scan. They found it's called the TIA stroke, which I'm not a medical professional, so I'm not even going to go into what all that is. And then they also did blood tests as well. And that's when they found out about the kidney thing. And he was like, you went out drinking after you had kidney failure? I was like, well, fuck, I didn't know I had kidney failure, bro. My bad. But yeah, I was in the hospital for a week, just chilling, I guess. There's not really much you could do in there. And when I got out of the hospital, I went on like a 2-month bender, like a bender. Yeah. Now, again,
I can see why. I can see why for sure.
not medical advice whatsoever, because
Definitely
you
not.
should definitely chill after you get out of the hospital for a week. But I went on a 2-month bender because, like I said, I was so high on life. There was not one single thing anyone could tell me. I thought I could piece up any person in the street. I could get any chick. It didn't matter. I could make any amount of money. I was so on a mental high on life. It was crazy. Yeah, but that's that story. So again, guys,
Man.
don't take after me on that one. Definitely look after your health. But as of right now, I'm good. So I'm healthy.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah. First, got to say it's good to hear that, you're feeling better. You're not going through that again. Second, wild story, wild boy moments right there. That's how you know my boy listens to tape a lot. But yeah, man, it's so crazy to hear. I mean, I understand why you went on a bender 2 months later. If you had a near death experience, you probably came up with perspectives that make you probably This is a question to you. Like, were you waking up, just appreciating life and things more? Did you notice that once you went through the experience?
Oh
I
yeah.
can I can definitely see that.
Yeah, so it was a huge experience that shifted my mindset a lot. I had another one as well where my older brother, who's not officially my older brother, he's someone that I've actually known since the day I was born. He passed away in 2019. I have like a tribute tattoo for him right here, but that was another experience that everything changed, right? I was just like, I could die tomorrow. Realistically, any of us could, right? You could choke on your food, you get hit by a bus, which I hope that doesn't happen to anyone listening, right? But it could, right? So it changed everything. And that's kind of my like philosophy on life is plan for the future, like have future goals, but live day by day, right?
I love
Because
it.
you never know what's going to happen, right? So you could plan 10, 20 years in the future, you could have a 10-year plan, but realistically that could all be gone tomorrow, which again, I don't want that to be gone tomorrow for anyone, but it's just something you do have to think about. But that's for sure the biggest change is
Yeah.
being
So
grateful.
how do you like structure your day, and what changes do you make where you can adopt that principle but also focus on being an entrepreneur? Like, I don't want to use
Yeah.
the word balance because I don't like that shit. But you see what I'm saying? Like, just
Yeah.
making sure that, okay, like you're living this ideology and this philosophy, but also not neglecting what you got going on. As I am asking this, I remember I think you already answered one part of it, which is having things systemized. But is there any other things that you do to make sure that you're doing this?
Yeah, and this is something that I'm still trying to work on. And, guys, I think a lot of people think that anyone, has done well, has everything figured out. That's not the case, right? Like I still have so much stuff I need to get figured out. So does everyone, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, I think getting a routine is something that I used to have really well when I first started out, like kind of back in those days, right? So I used to actually wake up at 5 a.m. every single day. I wake up at 5, be at the gym 5:30, be back at 7, work at 7:30 till like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. Now it's not like that, right? I don't really have like a set schedule. I kind of wake up, it depends what time I go to bed the night before, which is completely different every night. My day is not really that structured, to be quite honest, right? It is something that I am trying to improve. Like I said, seasons, right? There are certain seasons where you're more locked in than others. So, my schedule might be a little bit better, but as a whole, I usually wake up maybe around 9 to 10 in the morning. I'll check ads, kind of hop into the Discord, just vibe with my community. And then I'll just go to the gym, kind of do whatever I need to do for the rest of the day, check ads at night, and that's about it. If I want to go out and have fun, I go out and have fun. It doesn't really matter. But, there are certain days where I do need to put in a lot more work than other days. It's just completely dependent. But Yeah, I'm really big on just enjoying life right now. You know, if I want to go to the beach, I go to the beach. It's just, I really try and do as much as I can that I want to do.
Hell yeah, man. I like, for the routine part, what I realize is I like having a structure that I can live off of, but I'm not beating myself up if it doesn't go to
Right.
plan. So, for example, usually this is my time to go to the gym, go to the sauna, meditate. I do it all at the same time, and then go pick my mom up. But we made it so we can have the podcast today because the other times weren't available. But I'm not tripping about it. I didn't wake up at the time that I want to wake up today. I'm not tripping about it. I'm just like, all right, like I have the structure. I'll try to follow it. I still did my, morning team meetings. We're on this call now. I'm following this, but I don't have like a crutch, and I found that to be very helpful. And something that I do, that I found out for people that are more routine, and Josh, maybe even for you, is what I do is I have a certain period of my time where I call it free time, where I choose whatever the fuck I want to do. If I want to work, I'll work. If I want to, if I have some momentum going and I want to finish something, I'll do that. But if I just want to stop work and I want to just go scroll TikTok, whatever, go play basketball, go to the park, I will do it. But just like I realize just having a routine makes it so you can do the things that you want, but also you don't want to be a slave to your routine, because
Yep.
this is why we became entrepreneurs, right? So we're not slaves to anything. So I appreciate you sharing that, and I am huge on the ideology as well. And I don't think you'll burn out, and you might not need as many vacations if you have a mini vacation throughout your day. That's what I call it. It's like the time for yourself where you let loose and you can do whatever, and just exercise that freedom that you get from being an entrepreneur. So I appreciate you sharing that. Let's talk about the current you, man. Like, what is your current focus right now? I know you're living, life present and day by day, but on some long-term stuff other than the family and some of the long-term goals that you already shared. Anything else that you're focusing on? Actually, you know what? Before we even touch on that, I completely forgot the Twitter and the Discord, man, because I've seen your Twitter grow,
Yeah.
because you've been dropping value, and I'm in the Discord as well, loving the Discord. Talk a little bit more about that, man, and then we'll get to the next question. But definitely can't forget this.
Yeah. So shout out to you and shout out to Pranav. It was like in maybe September or October time of last year. I saw YouTube dropping a lot of value on Twitter. And I was just thinking, back when I first started, there was nobody just giving out free game like that. Nobody. You had course sellers, but they were just selling bullshit. And the fact that there was people like you and Pranav and a couple others just giving out free game on Twitter, it just blew my mind. So I was like, well, I might as well do it too. So I started up the Twitter in October of last year, and I grew kind of a cult following pretty fast. And then
Hell yeah.
I was giving out a lot of really, really good information, which I still do to this day. And then it was in like maybe December time that the term like Chad scaling kind of became like a thing. And
I
then I
remember that
kind of,
actually.
yeah. And then I just kind of developed like a little personal brand around like the whole Chad thing,
And
which
loving
works
Latinos,
well.
can't forget that. Can't forget that. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure you're known
So
for the other thing as well, bro.
yeah, everyone knows two things. They know the Chad, and they know the Latinos. That's like the thing, right? So I kind of developed like a little personal brand around that, which it is nice because that is kind of already who I was as it is, maybe just amplified on a couple tweets and stuff. But that's who it was. So I thought it was really dope. And then I always had the idea to do a Discord. And I wanted to do one originally last year. And then I just got too sidetracked. We had too much stuff going on. And then I ended up making it this year because Ecom Bob and Ecom Legend, they had their Discord and it was blowing up, and they kept telling me to do one. And I launched the Discord, and it's really awesome just having your own community of people, which I think Tate is doing this better than anyone right now, right?
The
You look
goal
at
at this.
what, shout out to you, Kendall and John. You guys are the ones who told me about Tate at that dinner, and nothing's been the same
Oh
since.
my God, I do remember that. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Casatua?
Yep. Yep.
Oh my God, that's so
Yeah,
crazy.
I had for those of you guys, so this was
Bro, he
earlier
was
this
the
year.
underground guy then. I think like even because shit, I've known
Yeah.
him since 2019. I used to be in the war room, bro. For those of you that didn't know, I used to be in the war room,
Wow.
and I've been talking to him a couple of times. But yeah, man, to see him blowing up is crazy. But that's so awesome, man. Continue, continue.
Yeah, I had no idea who Tate was. And then you guys told me, and then it was either you or John told me to watch this one interview, which it's like him being interviewed by Tom Segura, like a comedian. It's called like Your Mom's House or something like
Bro,
that.
that is hilarious.
It was one of the funniest interviews I've ever watched in my life, but he also put a lot of good life principles in there. Obviously, a lot of it
For
is
sure.
satire, right? He does
Yes.
amplify his personality, but if you can just peel that back, you do see a lot of the good things that he says. And so
Right.
yeah. And then I looked at him and I was like, dude, he is developing the War Room and Hustlers University. And that's when I realized you need to build a community, right? So you have your own community of people around you. So now the Discord's like 2,100 people. Eventually, I want to grow it to as big as I can. But if I make enough people enough money, and they'll be loyal to me for the rest of their life, right? You know, if I'm changing their entire,
Hell yeah.
you know, if I can take them from 0 to 6 figures, or from 6 to 7, or from 7 to 8, you know, they'll be loyal to me for the rest of their life. I'm making them money. So it's a way that we can all grow together. And it's been a blessing, dude. It brings me so much. I barely make any money off the Discord, like relative to everything else.
Yeah, for sure.
But it brings me more joy than anything. So it's something that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah, man. Even having that community, bro. I experienced this recently. Like anywhere I go, like there's someone from my community, and then they're like, "Yo, like Italy, bro. My boy Jack. You know, shout out
I
Jack.
saw that.
Fucking, he took a train from north of Italy to meet me in Rome and showed me around for a week. And what was crazy? It was the crazy timing. I even met the person that told him to buy my course and join the program. That was like such a crazy coincidence because he was in the Rome the same time, and got to know these guys like, you know, ecom, and they showed me around Italy, bro. And I had a crazy and way different experience than I would have had if I was just alone. You know, if I was alone, if I just, yeah, like, so, and I love having a community, you know, especially helping people, and then all of you guys are growing together. You probably had this as well, where someone in your Discord put something that helped you. They're like, shit, what the fuck? Hey, thank you, you know. And that's what I like, man, just communities, you know, growing together. So that's awesome to hear. But yeah, like I asked just a little earlier, man, just the current state of you. What are you up to? What are some other long-term goals of yours? What is your main focus? And yeah, I'd love to kind of hear that.
Yeah. So as of right now, you know, me and Omar building out all the stores, still running that. Discord is a big one. Obviously, like I said earlier, you know, living day by day, whether I want to go to the beach, whether I want to go out and have fun, where I want to work out, all that stuff. As far as the future goes, I think once Omar and I exit our stores and we're kind of done with ecom, we definitely have a couple of things like franchise opportunities that we want to go into. Shout out to Casey. As you know, Casey, he's actually killing it right now. He actually just opened a CBD franchise. So
Hell
that's
yeah.
something. So that's something that we're really looking into. And then my passion project, I've mentioned this a couple times to people, but after we're done exiting our stores and I have more time to focus, my passion project is going to be, I'm going to start a tequila brand because
Yeah, that's fitting, bro. That's fitting. I will support it.
So I've never really been a huge person on brands just because I feel like if you really want to run a brand, it has to be something that you truly believe in and something that you have fun with, right? So a lot of the products that we sell, they're just drop shipping products, right? So I don't really have a whole lot of attachment to them. I don't really feel really passionate about them. Sure, do they make money? Yes, but it's not really something I'm deeply driven by. Now, everyone knows this, I love to have a good time, right? So, and I love tequila. So it just makes sense that, and I look at the tequila market, it's a huge market, right? Multi-billion-dollar market. And I truly do believe that and I can't put out the name just yet, just because I need to get everything trademarked and all that good stuff. But I really do believe that I will build the world's biggest tequila brand. I wholeheartedly believe it.
Yeah. I got your back on that, bro. Trust me. Once that's launched, no more Casamigos, no more 42s, none of that op shit. You know what I'm saying? We only drink what Josh has.
But this is the plot, you know. I'll just put it out there for anyone, you know, if you guys want to start an alcohol brand, which I know it's kind of a hot thing right now because, you know, for example, Nelk Boys just dropped Happy Dad. You know, there's a couple of other people like Kendall Jenner or Kylie Jenner, one of those two dropped their tequila or whatever. So kind of the plot is, you know, dominate your local market first, which I happen to live in a very Hispanic area, is Miami. So dominate your local market first, you know, validate the concept. And then once you validate the concept, branch out to other places, which is, you know, I love going to Mexico. So I'm going to kind of put my stake down there, go to Colombia, put a stake down there, which I'm actually going to Colombia in a few days now. So that'll be fun.
No way.
Yeah.
Everything good with the entry now? Because I remember it was a little issue earlier this year.
Yeah. So I'll be good on entry this time. And I have a business. I have a business that I'm actually opening in Colombia, which unfortunately I cannot say on here. Maybe we can talk about this after, but yeah, I'm opening a business in Colombia. That's going to be pretty exciting. Yeah.
I have a couple of guesses, and if any of them are true, I'm gonna laugh my ass off. But we'll talk about this after this podcast for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, man. For I didn't really want to talk many ecom stuff or like get technical here because that's what your
Now you go
Discord's
for it.
for. But I don't know. I want to kind of just learn a little bit more about you. You know what I'm saying? I learned a little bit more about you, your journey, and just the different parts. We did go on your Discord and ask some questions. First thing I would say, if you're in ecom, interested in learning ecom, definitely join his Discord. We'll put it in the link below on this podcast. Definitely join. I'm in the Discord as well. Engage with us. There's a free chat and then there's a paid chat. Get in the paid chat, man, because he's actually giving value. Like every day, I'm seeing announcements, new looms doing this, and one thing about Josh is that it's not like a community with most of these course sellers where they have a Discord and it's just their team just giving generic answers. Like he's
Yeah.
actually just there talking to you like you're a normal person. And it's not like he's hiding someone else is handling his account or whatever. So definitely join the Discord, join our Discord as well. But yeah, the question from the Discord was, how much money did you have when you start helping out fam and friends?
Yeah.
I guess they were curious about that. A little more personal question. Maybe they were going through this. So I'd love to hear that.
Yeah. So a couple of things on this. So one, it was as soon as I could, but listening to your podcast, I actually learned an interesting principle. And I forgot what episode it was, but essentially what you're saying is that in the beginning, you need to be a bit selfish because you cannot pour into someone else's cup if yours is
Yeah,
empty.
facts.
Yeah. So that was one that I thought was very interesting. So for those of you guys who are maybe just starting to get some money, good for you, right? Congratulations. But you need to really stockpile a little bit first before you give back. Now, if your family's in a dire situation, definitely help them out, right? But if you do have the ability to kind of stockpile a little bit, go for it, because I thought that was such a great concept. And this could be with money, it could be with, happiness. So if someone else is
Yeah,
trying to seek advice from you on how to be happy, but your happiness tank is drained, you can't really pour a whole lot into their cup, right? So that kind of goes with everything. But as a whole, I mean, it was literally as soon as I started making money, I started helping out my dad. I love my dad a lot. He
hell yeah.
is, he's been my biggest believer. My dad, he was pretty much the only family member I ever had that never once told me to go to school. I told him
G.
this is my dream. This is what I want. And, he never once told me, hey, you got to go back to school, this or this. So, shout out my dad. I mean, shout out my whole family for sure. But, I love my dad and, he's well taken care of. I'm going to try and get him a house out here, all that stuff. But yeah.
I love that, man. I love that, bro. Family first, and I love that you adopt that principle. And I agree with exactly what you say. You can't pour from an empty cup. So, and the best part the best thing that you said from that is just not just money, bro. It's energy. It's happiness. A lot of this is like there has to be. I forgot who said it, man. You have to achieve a certain level of like unbalance for a period of time to have that balance, right? So like
100%.
doing the things now, going through that unbalance or imbalance, not unbalance, imbalance period of your life, so you can have that balance in the future. Because otherwise, you can't. It's like if you're a nobody, but you have all this balance with your friends and this and that's like, what the fuck's the point, bro? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I don't want to have balance in life and be average. Like, fuck that, yo. The next questions he had. What are the top 5 things to do when you're rich? Ooh, especially living in Miami, I feel like you will have some answers. I guess just
Yeah.
from your perspective, what are some things that is worth doing once you get rich?
Hmm. It's a good question. Now, I think that a lot of people, when they ask this question, this kind of parlays into like the biggest mistake that a lot of people make is once their income goes up, their spending goes up as well, which it does make sense, right? You do need to treat yourself to a certain
I've
degree.
definitely made that mistake before too. I think
Yeah,
we've all had phases of that.
100%. So whoever did ask that, I want to, let them know like, hey, you don't need to go too crazy as soon as you start having a good amount of money. However, a few things, right? One is you need to embrace that you now have some sort of freedom, right? So when you are first starting out, you don't really have much freedom, right? You have to grind 24/7. You have to adhere to certain rules. So one is embracing your freedom. Two is you have the ability to buy better food, which is fantastic, right? We all love food. We all love good
That's a
food.
dope advice right there. Wow.
Yeah. So good food is a big one. Number 3 is change your environment, right? So move to a new place, or if you're already in a place that you enjoy, upgrade your environment a little bit. It'll put you in like, for example, my building, which I'm not going to say what building I'm in. Splash, you know what building it is, but in order to get into this building, it's very hard. You have to provide tax returns, you have to show investments, you have to show all this stuff, right? Bank statements. So everyone in this building is a baller, right? Which I really enjoy. So, being in this environment, it makes you want to level up, things like that. So that would be 3rd. 4th one would be to invest into yourself, as far as, getting higher level coaching, right? So in the beginning, for example, Discords are great, but you
I
do
love
want
that.
to reach out to like high level individuals. So I'm not worth 9 figures, right? But you want to reach out to 9-figure individuals and get mentored by them. And the 5th one would be continue to give back to your family. So
Hell yeah, man. I love that, bro. I love the answers. I also love that you covered that part about learning from other people, because there's a little weird stigma that people have when it comes to anything that's paid, right?
right.
And first of all, it's funny to me because they spend their money on the dumbest shit and they don't bat an eye on traditional ways of learning that really doesn't help them. I know many people in many programs that are only there because of their family. So, but you are telling people how you've done something and you can see the proof, and you're a scammer and I'm a scammer apparently, right? So it's always lovely hearing that, because it's true. Like, anyone that I know is successful buys people's knowledge, right? Because time is finite. Time is, time is the only scarce resource in the world. They last year, what they said, they printed like 40% extra supply. Like they didn't print extra 40% time supply, so it's like, to save time and to learn, it's such a huge thing. But if you're going to be the dumbass that doesn't do that, you're going to lose. You're going to fall behind. So I really, really like that you mentioned, you could have said 5 like fun shit like jet skis and go travel and stuff. But
Yeah.
I love that you kept it very, very logical, and it was good advice. So I appreciate you, brother. I'm going to plug all your stuff down below: your Twitter, your Instagram, your Discord. I want everybody to follow it and join it. Before we end this podcast, any closing thoughts or notes that you want to say?
Man, there's so many things I could say, but as a whole, just want to say, if you made it to the end, I really do appreciate, you listening all the way through. Shout out to Splash for having me on. Like I said, there's not too many people who could get me to do
Yeah, I
something like
appreciate
this.
you for this, man.
But yeah, guys, I really do live under the philosophy that you can do whatever you want, right? The world is yours. So if you want something, go get it. But, just don't lose sight of who you are, which, is the podcast is called Keeping It Real, right? So keep it real. Don't lose sight of who you are, but, try and improve yourself every day. And I promise you, you guys can do whatever you want.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that. That was a perfect way to end the podcast. For those of you listening, have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.